Related to the Paperbark people, I'm actually the great-granddaughter of Lucy Double McGinness. My nana was Margaret, her only daughter, one of 5 children she had. My mum is my grandmother's only daughter, and I'm the youngest of her 6 children, Ida Bishop. I was given my name, my Aboriginal name, my Kungarakan name, by my grandmother, Margaret Pudgin. That was her name. My name is Double, and that's the name of my great-grandmother also. And that we're given those names to look after the places they relate to. So,
can you tell people what you know of Xavier Herbert's connection to the Kumara?
He was a very staunch supporter of Kungarakan people. He was a champion. He was a patron. He was a mentor. I think he served a lot of purposes and had that close relationship too. So he was adopted by our people and given that name Numeyook as a title of respect, as an older man, an older gentleman who like an elder, a male elder. So that name Numeyook, he takes that with pride, and that gave him that relationship with us as well, having that name bestowed upon him more of a title. So it was a good thing. And he was at the land claim hearings. My mum used to tell me stories about him being there, and told me about Xavier having a close relationship with our tribe. He had all his books. I didn't get to read many. I've kind of skimmed over Capricornia because I think that was the one that my great uncle, my nana's brother, was mentioning, and there's several others that get a mention in his books as well, I believe. I've never got down to reading one though. Don't say that. But Mum. Yeah, it was just a matter of course, Xavier. When I was younger, I didn't understand his significance. Because I was just a teenager, Mum telling me these things. A lot of history is held by people, not necessarily direct members of the tribe, but people who are entrusted into that relationship of the tribe, and it just so happens those people have got reputations and lives and a history of their own, but just having those allies, and I think each tribe does have their allies that they bring alongside them for the journey or just for company, and that's that Mukmalu relationship. Mukmalu meaning for the side or the rear. They're our companions along the way, and when we say we adopt people, that's that relationship grows naturally out of associations. And if one member knows that person and they're a good person, they've got a good heart, then everyone gets to know them and love them, as a companion and a friend to the tribe. So I think that's how those relationships have come about. It's not so much about alliances, but it's just natural relationships to develop out of common goals to see justice done or to support each other in some kind of struggle. And I think that's what Xavier was there for as well, and people like him. And in the old days of Darwin, not that I've, I left Darwin after Cyclone Tracy when I was 8, but I listen to what Mum tells me, and a lot of that history, and I've been coming up for years for meetings, and now I'm living here, but I've listened over those years because I'm interested in history, I'm interested in my own identity, so I gather information so that I know where I stand and where I fit in the scheme of things. And Mum and people like Mum have always had a strong identity and taught us that's our identity, never hid it from us, never lied about it. So it was just a journey of discovery, coming back and finding out who all these different people were, my relations, who they are. There's heaps of them out there, hundreds. Only scratch the surface. But yeah, and I'm a bit of a researcher and writer myself, so finding out those things is might be part of my story one day that I'm going to write. So, but helping Mum with that writing and also knowing her experiences and her relaying those to us is just all interesting for me. But what was I going to say about the struggle? I think in those early days of Darwin, it was a very close-knit community, and it was a very different place to live. It was like, I guess, the last frontier of, people coming here to work. There was the gold rush, the mining, the mining interest that people got into. It was a very hard place to work. Stephen had a hard life. Stephen McGinness, Lucy's husband, and his kids, they worked very hard. And that's why, and he taught them, as did Harry Edwards, my grandfather, who is his friend. There's a connection there too, because Harry Edwards and Stephen McGinness were very close. Harry married my nana, so he gave his daughter to my grandfather there, and that was that he entrusted her to him. So that was very. It's probably a bit of a protection thing at the time, because Aboriginal people were just abused and exploited, like they had been for the last couple of 100 years. So then emerging out of that, because Stephen was a fighter and Harry was a champion as well, he would advocate for my great uncles when they needed support, their rights to be upheld around town, because that's still that protectionist theory of, you can be given rations, and you can given, if you earn a wage, we'll keep it for you just in case you misspend it. We'll keep it in trust and just give you a little bit here and there. And there was an incident, I think it might have been with great uncle Joe, but I might be sketchy on the details, but my great uncle went in to buy a blanket for my great grandmother, his mother, and wanted to buy her a new blanket. Well, he had to explain what he wanted to spend his money on, why, and was just told to turn around and go away, because she already had a blanket, her ration blanket, and she didn't, have to have another special blanket for her birthday. And Harry Edwards came back with this great uncle and said, "You give this bloke his money, so he can buy whatever he wants with his money." And so Harry Edwards was another white man who kind of fought alongside, I guess, for those rights. And you know the story of Jack McGuinness getting into the union movement, and so they were all into it. Even my nana was a bit of a fighter, so and joined her brothers in that, what she could do, and great uncle Joe, so over in Queensland. So yeah, they got people who stood up alongside them, and people like Xavier, and he knows important things about those kind of people is that they do hold a bit of a history, and I mean, you can see by his biography, people have gathered bits and pieces about us, and I like to get those pieces and put them in the jigsaw puzzle about our mob, and it's interesting that they're in writing, they've done the background research, or met relatives I never met because I was young and they'd passed on before I came along, so yeah, just helps you to collate that, yeah.
I mean, what's the struggle now about, for instance, with the Kahlin Compound? What would you like to see happen there?
I was talking to a friend about this the other day. Similar thing happened with Retta Dixon. It was bulldozed to the ground. Retta Dixon was another home for wards of the state who were taken away from their parents, Aboriginal kids. And if that had stood, like maybe parts of Kahlin Compound, if they were preserved, it would be a place for those families, those individuals to go as maybe a healing. They might have maybe there are a fraction of the people who said, bulldoze it, we don't want to know about it, it's too bad, the memories are bad, all bad, get rid of it. But there's a place for that in the healing process, I believe, to go back. Say if they were going to go to a dormitory that was just preserved as was, as they were as kids, and they can work through those things, I mean, I was never taken away. Mum never had that experience. She was always with Nana. But those ones who did, maybe there is a place for that. So it's places like Kahlin, I reckon, maybe there's a part of it that could be restored for that purpose, and it's a testament. It's like, dare I say, and liken it to Auschwitz and Krakow and places in Poland where there were concentration camps. People still visit them. They go there, and I'm sure a lot of Jewish people go there just to, work through those, hurtful memories that horrific, And some experiences were horrific. I'm not saying they all were, because you've got some Aboriginal people who come out with saying that if that didn't happen, they wouldn't have been, they probably would have starved because of the depression and things like that. Probably not much better at Kahlin Compound, because that was like a concentration camp as far as I know. I've learnt. So, yeah, I think part of it should be preserved for that kind of purpose, revisit, and also a reminder of not what to do. You see, there's a lot of shame and probably thing on the government's behalf about keeping places like that alive, in case people know just how horrible, or how bad Aboriginal people had it. And there's a sense of, if they bulldozed it, what did they bulldoze it for? Was it to get rid of a bulldoze, get rid of a memory that... Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
Well, they're bulldozed.
It's like it never happened. If we bulldoze it...
None of them, they don't exist anymore.
Yeah.
So it's too late for that. But they're talking about a cultural centre.
Yeah.
Where all
I
the
reckon they
stories
should actually what is it? Reenact, no, not reenact, but make up a kind of it's just like they've done with the Tracy exhibit. Have you been to the museum and seen the Cyclone Tracy exhibit? And they've got a little room, how the 70s room would have looked in a typical Darwin house. It's just you go, and then your mind immediately goes back and starts recreating, good or bad. It's something you do. I visited for the first time, I don't know how many years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, after I'd been evacuated out with my family, and it was kind of chilling again, and you go through and you go, yeah, no wonder I was so traumatised I never came back, but yeah, well, Mum and Dad never came back. But I reckon they should rebuild something like that and well, I can't even think of the word. What's the word? Do a duplicate, duplicate those conditions and show people what it was like to live in a tropical climate in dorms and buildings that probably weren't built for the tropical climate. Tin shed, maybe. I don't know what it was made out of. I think it was on stilts. I don't know. Some of those. Yeah, half starved, taken off your land, dispossessed, and shoved in a place which was so totally artificial and cooped up that. And then answer why Aboriginal people might just want to put up a fight about that and get the record straight.
Yeah.
But you see, if we bulldoze it and get rid of it, never happened.
Yeah. That's right.
But you got walking, living, memory banks who remember it did happen and just what they didn't like about it. Yeah.
Right, we're here on the original site of Kahlin Compound, where the part Aboriginal children were brought in and housed here and then shipped out to all points north to the islands, Melville Island, Bathurst Island, Groot Island and Croker Island. We're just pointing out to mark the site, which a group of people here in Darwin are fighting for recognition and for a building that commemorates that period of time and remembers the stolen generation. And this is vacant Crown land, and it's already been open to developments. And there's already been interest up to put high-rise buildings in this area. But the residents of Larrakia have joined in protesting that any more high-rises not be built on this, but to commemorate the place in other features, like there's going to be a parkland. But our special interest for the Kahlin is that we have a say in what goes down in this section of Darwin. This is very dear to the stolen generation. This is where lots of people lost their identity and never regained any of their true place in society. On the right-hand side, there was the paddock, the police paddock, that housed the horses and the goats, and on the other left-hand side was the compound with the children. And in a plan that I have sketched, I've tried to recreate the compound structure and stage, and but replacing it with a promenade where people can walk, and a centre where people can sit down and enjoy and look at the stories and the pictorial messages that will be, we think, a boost for tourism here in Darwin. To Kahlin, not as just an advertisement on a sign to say that Kahlin was situated on here, but something that we can actually own and control. And our argument is that for once we want to be the host. We don't want to be hosted. So we're staying strong with that. There's a little section over in the corner there that I'd like to do a little theaterette for small rehearsals and things like that. I want the area to be marked with some fence, like a barbed wire fence or something, to remember that we were in with the animals as well, and not to be insulting or anything, but to show the true history. Our concern is that this land was one of the first Commonwealth or government built institutions here in Darwin, in the development of Darwin. So it features very, very strongly with the history of Darwin, and we want to maintain that history.
One of the very first people to be brought here, and we don't even still know her age. We didn't know her birth date. All we know that she was a very young child, taken away to come to school, so supposedly to come to school to read and write and learn all the things that she should have learned instead of being out in the camps. When we grew up and started school, we found out that she could neither read nor write. So they took her away on a pretext, in a sense. It wasn't really for her benefit at all. So I'm still angry about it.
But Lucy came here with her two youngest children, yes, because they were going to be taken off her anyway, yeah, weren't they?
Yes, so she was cooking in I don't know whether she was cooking. She wasn't certainly cooking for the children. She was working and cooking in one of the doctors' places or government offices places.
And the people here were basically starving. I mean, they didn't even have...
They were. there was no food for them, and I think they failed in their duty of care unless you had a container of any sort and rolled up for your food. You just didn't get anything to eat. And consequently, the young boys used to go down the
steal and run away.
Steal from the market gardens, the Chinese gardens. And the Chinese was pretty upset about that. They used to come out with their shotguns with the saltpeter
and shoot them if they found them. So
I know Uncle Val was out there and they were caught, or not caught, but seen, and he came out with his gun just down the cliff there. And he was hiding, and Uncle Joe was well worried that he was shot. Never came back for hours.
Yes.
He had to find shooting back after dark.
Yes.
They didn't have very much to show for their little forays.
Yeah.
With the current situation, with going through the land claim was one thing, the land claim hearings. We now have to prove again, with fewer language speakers and fewer elders, we've got to prove again our native title rights to the Bachelor, Rum Jungle, Finniss River areas. So they say the burden of proof is on us back to 1825 when Darwin was settled. So all that evidence we see as important that's been written about us, that other people have had that experience, and it's in the record books now. But it's just a shame that burden of proof is back on us, and we have to now re-prove every area. We've still got the Finniss River Lands Trust area. The extra bits that weren't included in that land claim. Like we existed in pockets. We didn't exist in pockets and lots and blocks, and we traversed a whole wide area that included every kind of terrain within that area. It wasn't like, oh, look out, that tree is the boundary line, don't go past that tree. No. And if you shared those rights with the neighbouring tribes, then they shared with you, you shared with them. But they also knew that was your area, don't come in there, not because it was territorial so much as you might have some significant place in there, or you don't know who's buried in there, or where the special places are, only if you live there, only if you look after that country. And that's why they say custodianship, because being a custodian, you don't own the land. You're not a landlord or a landowner who hunts people off and punishes people, for taking stuff that's yours. You've got a responsibility to look after it, to look after the waterways. Waterway custodianship is a big thing with Kungarakan Paperbark people. Yeah. So you've got to keep those responsibilities and take them seriously. And that's what the sad thing about being taken off and hunted away from your traditional lands is you can't do that. You can't look after your mother like you want to look after your mother. So.
I'm Speedy McGinness, Senior Custodian of the Finniss River Land Claim out here, Area 4. Been here since the land was handed back, 93. Prior to that, I had defied everyone and lived out on the land till such time as the land claim did start. So I've been on the land for quite a while now.
Can you tell us a bit about what the land represents to you?
Oh, well, the land, not only to me, to everyone, to you too, the land is what keeps us going in a lot of different ways, but it keeps our food source going, our water, everything, our survival. The land is very important to all people all over the world. That's why I'm so into looking after land, actually, because I think about my children and the future generations, that if we look after the land, keep the land going, it's going to keep people going. But we're not doing too good a job, actually. It's pretty sad what's going on throughout the world, and there should be a lot more people should take notice of indigenous people of the world, their cultures and their ways of looking after the land.
And how do you look after the land, Speedy? What
Well,
do you do?
one of the main things nowadays is to try to stop excessive mining, especially the mining of the likes of uranium and that. Used specifically for wars and stuff like that, and to the way Australia is nowadays, it's the continent that has to be burnt all the time to keep the grass levels down, all the introduced grasses from overseas and all that. And it's Australia is a burning country, actually. It's has to be, but by the same token, you have to do it in moderation and at the right time and all that, or you do more damage than good. You see by a lot of the fires down south, the raging fire and that destroys so much, and it not only destroys houses and all that sort of thing, the bush, it knocks the bush growth back down. There's a lot of vegetation that never ever comes back after severe bushfires, and mainly in the rainforest and places where there's water, protection of water. You got to have the cover from the elements, the sun and the wind and the rain, the stuff like that.
And what do you like about living around here? What are the things that really make you?
No bloody neighbours, for a start. Just the peace, the tranquility. Just to hear the wildlife, the birds and the animals and stuff like that. It's a world of its own, actually. You can hear it all going on there, and then occasionally you hear the bloody motor cars that go past and that. But just the peace and being in touch with nature, it's such a good feeling, actually. Yeah.
Can you describe some of the animals that are around here?
Oh, we've got the bloody lot here, right from King Brown and, all the same. And that's it, visually too. When there's not so much traffic and things happening, foreign noise around, like machines and all that sort of thing, you get to see all the different animals that come out, and it's really good. There go the bloody cars, eh? But yeah, it's people get frightened of the quietness, or they think it's quiet, and what's that bloody noise? And people spin out. I see a lot of town people. I've seen you doing it actually, but and just being able to identify what that sound is and go and find it, and what sort of animal it is, and that and it's not just for black people, man. It's for everyone. That's animals and all that are there for a reason. Even the taipan or something like that, deadly snakes and that, they're around for a reason. But I don't like them hanging around here too much. What's that down there?
Okay. Can you tell us about your involvement with Xavier Herbert?
Well, it wasn't that much, actually. But it was enough for me. He was a beautiful man, very beautiful man. And I was based in Alice Springs those days. I forget what year it was now.
1980 something. 81,
Yeah,
82.
yeah, it must be, yeah, that far back. My God, I must be getting old. Um, anyway, he was writing the next book. He was quite desperate about it, actually. His hands and all that, it was all seizing up on him and that. And then he'd sit there and you could see the pain that was going on in him, just the arthritis, and all his fingers were all getting crooked and that, and he couldn't type properly. And he was very desperate to finish that book. And when I found out he was out there, I went out in Ross River, just out of Alice Springs, Ross River Homestead. I went out, and every weekend I used to go out and stay with him, just camp out there and that. I was with the Department of Aboriginal Affairs them days, and I'd go out, and it was such amazing, his memory, and he used to tell me these stories, but he was in a desperate, like he was desperate to get a lot of the stuff out, and he'd be just spewing out all these words and these incidents, and I'm very sad nowadays that I never sort of taped him or wrote things down, but just all this information he had, and he used to just tell me all these things, and then all of a sudden he'd say, "Gotta keep going," and he'd start typing madly again. He was so desperate to finish that book. I've often always thought about that book that he was doing, whatever happened to it, because he really wanted to complete that book. Very sad watching him. There you go, how he was, just desperate to get it done. He really pushed himself. He was pushing himself, and yeah.
And can you tell people how you found out he died, just what happened there?
Oh yeah, well that was really sad, because I was to go across go out of Alice Springs, the other side of Western Australian border actually, and he told me that he was going into hospital because they were going to operate on his hands. They would just straighten them out and that, and the doctor was going to cut them and straighten them, and they were all, just sort of. So I went with him into Alice Springs when he was taken into Alice Springs, and then I went and prepared my vehicle to go bush and that. And then he called me up, and he came down, walked down from up in the hospital, came and seen me off, sort of thing it was actually. So I went and seen him there, and away I went, and it was only about 2 or 3 days later that Department of Aboriginal Affairs rang me up and said, "You got to come back. Xavier Herbert's dead." And it was left in his will that we were to bury him. So yeah, it was just a matter of days. It was such a shock to me, because he was very old and frail and that, but even then you could see the drive in him. He wanted, it was that book. He wanted to finish that book. He was desperate about it actually, and that's the main thing that hit me with his death was I felt so sad that he'd never completed that book. I don't even know what the bloody book was about actually. He told me lots, so much thing. He was. I'm not that educated and all that sort of thing, and it was sort of too much for me. He had so much knowledge and so much history and that.
What do the Aboriginal people call him?
Oh, Numeyook. That's like elder of our tribe and that.
So Numeyook.
Numeyook.
And what did he call you?
Oh, well, you want to know? No,
Young fellow, wasn't
yeah, young fellow, yeah. Oh, well, I was compared to him, I suppose, 20 or 30 years different, I don't know what it was. But yeah, Hello, young fella, young McGinness, he used to call me.
Right.
And I think I was in my 50s then or something. No, it wouldn't have been. It's been how long back that? Yeah.
Yeah, you would have been 30 or something.
Yeah.
25 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me, what do you remember of the funeral itself?
It was, well, funerals, apart from out bush and that, to me, they gone too much whitefella way. We still had the paperbark and covered him with paperbark and all that, but funerals, I would have preferred to bury him down the back here or something, you know, and wrap him up in paperbark instead of using a coffin and all that. He would have enjoyed it too, Xavier. I'm sure he would have. Well, originally he wanted to, there's about 3 different things he had going. I think he just wanted to take the old Land Rover and drive out into the desert and just die out in the desert. Then he wanted to be buried back on the land here, out near where the Lucy claim and that was. And the other one, was to be buried next to Sadie. So you had all them things done. I talked him out about going out into the desert actually because he wanted to go out and die out in the old Land Rover. And he gave me the Land Rover. And I said, I still remember that conversation because when he was telling me, I said, bloody hell, that's a waste of a bloody good motor car. You go out there and die and ride away and you're going to bug up the motor car. And he said, you can have the motor car, I won't do that one. So it was quite funny actually in a way. But I talked him about it. And to me, I got 2 feelings about that too. It would have been his wish and would have been all right for him to go and just die peacefully out in the bush and that. But just the whole thing of involving Kungarakan people was so good too that he wanted us to bury him in the end, and I'm glad we did. It was good.
And what do you know of his relationship to the Kungarakan people?
Oh well, that goes back a long way, right back. And that was a sad part too. None of the elders spoke that much of him and that. Mainly because not many people were interested, you know, even the younger people and all that sort of thing. And that's a sad part with the black people, that there's not enough story told about the people who support them. Because it was hard, even my life. I was brought up in a blacks camp early parts of my life and that. And there were a lot of good white people around, and if they didn't do the work in the early days to stop a lot of the racism going on and that, it would have been a lot harder for many more years for Aboriginal people. So there was a lot of good white people out there and that, and they've never ever really received the recognition they deserve too for what they've done with the, for Aboriginal rights and that. And he was one of the main men too in that field.
He had a special connection to the McGinness family though too, didn't he?
Oh yeah, big time. It was good. I wish I just would have known him a lot more, a lot better. And I got to know him in the desperate. He was desperate to do that book, and he was desperate to do lots of things. And that it's sad when you see someone like that wants to get things. I'm getting a bit bloody that way myself. I want to get things done for my son before I take off, or before they cast me forth into the outer darkness.
Speedy, people might be interested in you. You told a story of yourself of when you had to, on behalf of Aboriginal Affairs, go out and round up the last people who were living a nomadic life. Can you just tell people a bit about that?
Ah, yeah, that was really dreadful. Very very sad, that whole thing. It's that was the Pindaby tribe out in the desert and that. And well, it goes back a bit further. They were sort of the result of the early days. You know, the muster that was done when they were dropping the bloody bombs on Maralinga and stuff like that, and they mustered up all the Pitjantjatjara and all them different people, and the Pindaby further over, and the Great Sandy Desert way, and the Gibson Desert. That's where the Pindaby people were, and they stayed away from contact for all those years, you know, and there was only just a family group left. There was 9 of them, actually. 9, the 2 mothers and just all their children. There's a big story about how the father died and that, and it was investigated. But anyway,
You want to tell people what that story is? What happened?
He was shot. The old fellow was shot by people crossing the desert. A lot of white people nowadays to get 4-wheel drives, and they go into, you know, what do you call it? Journeys into the wild and all that sort of thing. Anyway, it's a long story how it all originated, how the whole scene came out, but anyway, there was a sighting of these 2 naked men in the bush and that, and by Aboriginal people. They'd seen them at a watering place, and being such a thing that everyone believed that, you know, there was no more people living in the wild, if you want to call it that. I call it home sort of thing. But and those days I was sort of like a troubleshooter, field officer for Department of Aboriginal Affairs, and the community rang in to say about these naked wild men and that. So Charlie Perkins, Charlie was then the Secretary of Aboriginal Affairs, and he knew how good I was at my job, you might as well say, as a troubleshooter. So they sent me out to go and see what the story was, and then went out there, and it was the belief then of the community members that there were a couple of Kadachis. Kadachi is a Dr. Blackfellow, the very, very scary person in the early days. So I went out to find this, see if they were the Kadachis and that. And then there was an old fella in the community that remembered back to the Maralinga days and the muster. The Australian government went out and mustered the people up and took them into communities and that to save them from the bombs that were to be dropped. They didn't do too good, though, actually, because there's still footage of a lot of the Anugu, Yankanjara and Nanganjara and Pitjantjatjara people who were still out that way when the bombing was going on. It was terrible, actually. But anyway, these the Pindaby mob, they kept going, this one family group, and it was lucky that one of the old fellows said, well, he remembered the family group that got away from everyone and that, and amazingly it was them too. But we got together a search party from Kintor. That's just before the Western Australian border, and then we went into Western Australia, that area in Western Australia, and followed their tracks and tracked them down. Actually, followed them, tracked them down, surround them, and then we dressed them. That was the really sad part. That when I went into Kintor and that, and seen some of the elders and all that, and I said, well, what are we going to do about them? You know, it was only the belief that there was only two men at that stage, and one of the old fellows said to me, we've got to go out and give them trousers. That was his exact words. We've got to go and give them trousers. And sadly, that's exactly what we've done. We went out and we dressed them first, even before we had a decent conversation with them, which was pretty hard because they were talking pure old ancient Pindaby sort of thing, but they were all Pindaby speakers there. But it was quite amazing when you see how much languages get westernised, bastardised and all that. It was pretty amazing to hear, actually. And yeah, so we dressed them up and then brought them back into society. It was so very sad. Even those early days, Aboriginal Affairs said, well, bring them in gradually and they can still live out there, and when the times are bad, you know, out in the desert and that, we'll have a halfway place where we can take food to them and that never happened. They were just so rudely just introduced to the today's society. It was terrible, actually, very terrible.
And what happened? Can you tell people what happened when they got into the car first time?
Oh, they vomited everywhere. It was, well, first thing we done was just fill them full of junk food, you know, tin meat and bread and all that, and they were stuffing it in them, you know, just never seen so much food, I guess, in one thing. And then next thing we done, we decided to travel on and that, and first time they ever been in a motor car, and even one of the women tried to jump out of another vehicle, and it was really sad, the whole thing. That's just how everything was new to them, and they got ill, you know, just from the movement of the vehicles, vomited up, and even me, I joined in with them because they were in the car. It was so sad to live all that, to see it all happening. And then we just took them straight back to the community. Then there was no gradual introduction into things. It was just so full on. It was, in one way, it was one of the worst things I've ever had to do for my people in my life and that. But then again, when you look at it, they wouldn't be where they are today with having children and different stuff like that, because that's what I mean. They were just a complete family group, and they still lived under strict Aboriginal law and that, and like you don't have sex with your sister and that sort of thing. And there was only brothers and sisters left, and the two old mothers, and they would have eventually just died out. But now I believe, I haven't been back. It's been a long time, but I've never seen them since. Only reports I get here and there, everywhere, and occasional stories about them. But a lot of them have got children now and got different lives. And one of these days, I might go back and see them.
And Speedy, can you tell people what you do now for the Aboriginal community, the work you do?
I'm not too pleased about it, but I'm an Aboriginal interpreter in the mainly the court system, the Supreme Court and stuff like that, and I'm the bearer of bad news still to this day. I have to go in and, you know, tell some old fellow that they're, you know, about to die from cancer and stuff like that in the hospitals, or I work in the mentally insane place in Darwin. I go in and see people in there, see if they've been treated humanely, you know, with the Anti-Discrimination Commission, and And yeah, but mainly all my work revolves around the court system, whole lot, the whole procedure, you know, police interviews, and then the committals, and then to the Supreme Court, because there's so many wicked things happening on these communities now. It's terrible how my people have been forced into the community life, and they're just mixing all people up, and you know, it's interrupting with the skin grouping, and you know the right skin marriages, and and then you chuck in the alcohol and the ganja and all that, and it's pretty wicked what's happening on communities nowadays. And many years ago I was involved when they first started off the outstation movement in the desert and that, and to me that was and still is the solution to everything, is to go back and live on the land, away from the corrupt communities and all that. That's why 15 years I've been living like this now, and no bloody neighbours. And it's a lifestyle. It's the answer. It's the young people taken back, teach them more about the bush, and to live off the bush and live in the bush, live with the bush. It's not too late, but people are going to. The government has to. Well, first off, Aboriginal people, the one who holds the purse strings and who people listen to. That's the thing. They don't go and consult with the real people, and that you've got all these bloody experts that know what's good for us and that. About time they started listening to what is good for us and practice what they preach, and yeah, get the people back in the bush and living in the bush, looking after the bush. Everyone has a role. Doesn't matter black, white, brindle or whatever you are, throughout the world, our real roles are custodians of the land. Nobody owns the land. I don't believe in ownership of the land. But custodians, I believe in being a custodian, looking after the land, what's on the land, what's under the mining and all that. Is people have got to start listening to how excessive mining and stuff like that is destroying the land more than anything. You know, it's just get rich quick, and we'll clear all this land and mine, we'll rehabilitate it. Look at bloody Rum Jungle Mine here, and they're still talking about it and going to throw millions of dollars that'll just get eaten up in the system. And you got to be very serious about messing around with nature. Doesn't matter where it is, coal mining or whatever mining, or forestry, and cutting down all the beautiful big old trees in Tasmania and all that sort of thing. It's a rape of the land. It's happening all over the world, and people aren't taking notice. The dollar, blinded by the dollar. It's very sad what's going on, but
And that's something Xavier Herbert was very passionate about too.
oh yeah, and he loved the desert, the old fella. He loved the desert, and people go out there, oh, bloody fired and it's hot and all that, but the desert is beautiful, and people don't get to. That's it. Nowadays, people are all clothed and protected from the environment and in bloody air-conditioned cars, and oh my God, look at that, and they don't get out and experience it. And you've got to experience all the heat, the cold, all that. That's all part of Mother Nature. You've got to experience it to live the life. Yeah. And that old man, he was, he really loved the desert and stuff like that. It's good when I do come across an occasional white fellow that so in tune with the bush and that's when I got total respect for people like that. even the black people now, a lot of them are so removed from it. And community life. It's not a blackfellow life. It's not. It's just all revolving around the bloody CDEP office and the bloody local store and stuff like that. It's removing Indigenous people from their way of life too. In a lot of situations, and you get that way that you get so dependent on the local shop for bloody tin of meat and bread and shit like that, and whereas all the proper food is, gone. It's been frightened away or driven away, and that it's very sad what goes on nowadays.
Any final comments you want to make?
Getting back to the Xavier Herbert.
No, it's about anything.
Oh no. Well, that's why we were sort of in tune together. We spoke a lot, Over evenings I used to go to his camp and that, and we used to talk about how things had changed, and right up to the end, he's still worried about black people and what was happening, happening to black people. We discussed it big time. It was pretty amazing. That's what I mean. I've got total respect for people like him that cared so much, and they went up against a lot of things in their lives too. Being pushed away by white people and all that sort of thing, called nigger lover. He used to be called nigger lover, old Xavier. I think he sort of took pride in a lot of ways, actually. And I used to call him the stirrer a bit, because a lot of people did, because he was one of the stirrers, and I can tell you a lot of us wouldn't be where we are nowadays if it wasn't for the likes of Xavier Herbert and him being a stirrer and that, and a lot of other white fellows too that cared enough about Aboriginal people. It's good.
Thank you.
That's it. Lovely man he was. Yeah, it's just a shame. I would have liked to known him more, known more about him and that. And but I'm just glad that he was what he did with my father and all the McGinness people. He put our plight out there, big time, and.
Might be worth mentioning who your father is, so people know.
Oh yeah, well my father was Jack McGinness, the elder of the McGinness men, and that one of and even my father, he achieved a lot through life that made things a lot easier for our people and that. And actually, he was the first ever black president of a union in Australia. My father was the North Australian Workers Union, and he couple of times he even spoke at the Federation of Councils about the plight of Aboriginal people in Australia. And Uncle Joe McGinness, he was another one. He was one of the main Aboriginal people when they had the referendum. Uncle Joe was. I was very proud of him too. He came here actually and done the naming ceremony for my son Jack. My son Jack is the first Aboriginal person to. You must remember that years ago we were forcibly taken off the land. So the cattle station and all that could, happen, and the mining and all that sort of thing. It was a government thing. Get the blacks off there, and we'll mine it, and we'll, run cattle and that. And so even this land here, all the Kungarakan people were taken off and put into institutions and stuff like that. And 83 years later, well, Uncle Joe actually was, when my grandfather, the white man, Stephen McGinness, died, there was only my grandmother, Alyan Davu, Aboriginal woman and that, and in those days, the law stated that a full-blood Aboriginal woman couldn't raise half-caste children on their own, so they were taken off and put into welfare and that. And Uncle Joe, he was about 4 years old when his father died, and he was the last one living on the land that was forcibly taken away. And now Jack was the first one born back on the land. You know, Jack was born here, in here, 83 years later. You know, there's a bit of history here still goes on. You know, about coming back to the land, and that's why I've lived like this ever since. And hopefully Jack will live on out here on the land and that, and look after the land. Even Jack, from a baby, I used to take him in the pram, a little stroller thing when I was burning off down the back here. I never had a car to do it, you know. I still haven't got a Toyota or anything like all these land council and that hand around, but they sort of, for some reason, they don't hand me one, but I don't give a shit either. I rather walk the land, you know, and when you're burning off, and that's it. You look after the land looks after you, and that means anywhere in the world to me. And it's not a colour thing. We, like I say, we are all custodians of the land, of the earth, and it's our role to look after it and stop building big freeways and everything else, and to live in with nature and that, and keep looking after nature, keep growing trees and all that, to keep our oxygen supply going. It's just there's no complication in it. It's all there. Everyone's knows what keeps us alive and keeps things going and that, but at the same time we're just killing it off just to make a better life. You know, it's and the first thing society does, oh, look at all that wasteland, because there's nothing happening there, only bloody trees growing and creating oxygen. Shit, let's knock them down and clear it and put some friggin' mango trees in or something, and it's just, it doesn't work that way, because you're destroying all the little lizards and animals that go with it, and it's a rich man's world. It's all about the bloody dollar. It's sad, but one thing keeps me going, I believe, Mother Nature, she'll give her big boobs a big shake and it'll all come tumbling down, and then we'll start off again. Yeah, and it's happening. There's volcanoes going off, there's tidal waves happening, the whole bloody lot. And that's it. That's it. Down it comes. All these high-rise buildings, and that fish will be having sex at the bottom of the ocean in the penthouse. You know, it's cameraman's cracking up here. You better cut that one out.
No, you're right, of course you're right. I mean, that's what Mother Nature does.
It doesn't sound like it the way you're cracking up. No, it does. It's, I used to worry like shit before, worry about everything, and when I see, I did my bit too of land clearing and that. I was with the, you know, have various jobs on road building and stuff like that. You just had to, them days you just did what was, you know, go ringing. I used to love cattle work and stuff like that, but, and I used to watch it a lot and just had more progress, and then you'd go back and, oh shit, what happened here? And you know, there's like Tipperary Station out here, they just, for miles and miles, they cleared it and cleared all the land with great big bulldozers and that. It was wicked, and and now there's just no trees and everything. It's pretty scary when you see that sort of thing. But it's happening everywhere, and the mining industry, that's a big one. That does a lot of destruction and all that. And there again, even my people, and they're blinded by the dollar, or they got the bloody corrupt councils and all that, you know, hit them with the royalties to make it all right and that, and new bloody Toyota dreaming, you know, all this crap, apology. And in the meantime, we're getting so removed from the land, and all these corrupt communities are getting built and making people used to, you know, air-conditioned buildings and big screen television. Oh, I'll go one in there. But just getting removed from what it's all about, looking after land. It's really sad, you know, fire bombing with helicopters and all that. And it doesn't work that way. I burn off every year, and you have to do it in stages and different areas as the water dries up, and slow burns, cool burns, and stuff like that. There's an art to it still, and black people were the best ones to know it. Even out in the desert, burning off the spinifex at the right times and stuff like that, and keep the food chain going. It is easy once you know all about it and when and how to do it and all that, but today's society is just, it's terrible the way things are nowadays. Right time, right place, it just gets real. Just get big my bat there, no, yeah.
Chimney there. Chimney flying above your head.
Yeah, I see.
If they'd lie inside it.
Oh yeah, they love it.
Nice and cool for them.
Yeah.
Oh, and it's camouflage.